Welcome back to the darkest corners of the mind. This time, there will be no stops, no chapter breaks, no road markers for you to catch your breath. There is only a thick, suffocating night that swallows all boundaries, bleeding seamlessly from one nightmare into the next. Relax your breathing, turn off all the light-emitting devices around you, and let the silence begin to weave the shape of fear. Have you ever squeezed your eyes shut so tightly that your pupils ached, and you started seeing tiny specks of light, glowing red or green streaks dancing against a pitch-black backdrop? You thought that was darkness? No, my friend. That's just your brain panicking. It is so starved for light that it fabricates fake visual signals just to comfort itself. True darkness, the most primal, ancient, and ruthless darkness, has no specks of light. It isn't black, because black is still a concept of sight. True darkness is an absolute absence, and the most terrifying thing humanity ever discovered is that when the light dies, the darkness gains weight. Imagine you're lying in bed, the blanket pulled over your head. You feel safe because you know that if you just throw the blanket off, the streetlight filtering through the window blinds will embrace you. But what if you threw that blanket off, forced your eyes open so wide the corners tore, and the thing pressing down on your eyeballs was still a thick, cold, invisible, and endless mass? That was how the era of blindness began. Not with a bang, not with the chilling sound of Gabriel's horn signaling the apocalypse, but with a silent, deafening click. One moment, the sun was scorching the glass skyscrapers of the metropolis. Neon lights were flashing on billboards, and the flame on the gas stove was burning a crisp blue. The next moment, every photon in the universe stopped moving. The light wasn't blocked. It simply ceased to exist. That day, humanity fell into a state of collective denial. When the darkness crashed down in the middle of a summer afternoon, the first reaction wasn't screaming. It was utter confusion. Billions of people around the world began rubbing their eyes. They blinked continuously, frantically, until their eyelashes fell out. They thought they had gone suddenly blind from a stroke, from poisoning, or from some new biological weapon. Screams of, "My eyes, what's wrong with my eyes?" and "Someone turn on the lights," echoed in thousands of languages, from the high-rises of New York to the bustling markets of Mumbai. Try closing your eyes and walking from your bedroom to the living room. Hard, right? Now imagine millions of cars tearing down the freeway at 65 miles per hour, and suddenly the drivers can't even see the steering wheels in front of them. The sound of those first few hours was a symphony of physical destruction and psychological tearing. The deafening screech of crushing metal, the roar of shattering glass raining down like daggers from skyscrapers, and beneath that colossal wall of noise, the screaming of human beings, snapping bones, tearing flesh. No one could save anyone. Surgeons holding scalpels suddenly plunged their blades into an invisible void. Mothers reached out wildly to find their children in sheer panic, only to grasp sharp table corners or the thrashing bodies of strangers. The concept of space collapsed entirely. Now people began groping for light switches. They flicked them on, off, dozens of times until their fingernails broke. Electricity still ran. They could feel the hum of the refrigerator, but screens didn't emit a single sliver of light. Fire still radiated heat, but it was entirely invisible. Reason, humanity's fragile shell of pride, was stripped away. When you can't even see your own hand held up to your face, the self begins to disintegrate. The survival instinct forces you to move, to grope around. And that is when the true torture begins. Without images to distract it, your ears are forced to absorb everything. In the blind city, footsteps became the signal of the Grim Reaper. When you are huddled in a corner, starving and your throat parched, you hear a rustle. How far away is it? 3 feet? 30 feet? on sound in absolute darkness has a bizarre reverberation. It distorts distance. You have to hold your breath, terrified that the pounding of your own heart against your ribs will give away your position. The silence isn't peace. It is the agonizing tension of waiting for a horrific sound to break it. Then, touch becomes a traitor. Every step is a gamble with death. You reach out, blindly swiping at the air. What will your fingers brush against? A cold wall? A jagged piece of metal that slices your tendons? Or something soft, wet, and squirming? Imagine you are crawling on the floor of a ruined supermarket looking for food. You grab something round and smooth, thinking it's a can of meat. But as you bring it up to bite it open, a blast of hot breath hits your nose, carrying the stench of rotting meat. The thing you are holding is the knee of someone who has been sitting in ambush, waiting for blind prey to crawl right to them. Human bodies became filthy in the dark. No one could bathe anymore. The smell of decomposition thickened, rubbing against your trachea like fine grains of sand. And when the physical body is pushed to its absolute limit, the darkness begins to extend its black tentacles into your mind. The concept of day and night was dead. There was only aimless drifting. When starved of visual input for too long, the brain rebels through Charles Bonnet syndrome, visual hallucinations. It started with faint flashes of light in the corner of the eye. People sobbed with joy, thinking the light was returning. But no, they slowly coalesced into the most vivid nightmares imaginable. From within the pitch-black walls, you see ashen faces emerge, eyeless, their gaping mouths vomiting streams of glowing, mercury-like liquid, slithering toward you. You shut your eyes. They are still there, burned into your retinas. Many gouged out their own eyes with shards of glass to end the torment, but the occipital lobe kept weaving nightmares. The human mind itself had become the most ferocious monster. As social rules evaporated, the predatory instinct rose up in a sickening way. Those who survived for months began to devolve. Their spines hunched. They crawled on all fours to feel the vibrations in the floor. Spoken language died out because a voice revealed your location. In its place emerged creatures known as the Whisperers. They roamed naked so their clothes wouldn't rustle, rubbing their oil-slicked, blood-stained skin against the walls to memorize routes. Is anyone there? I have water. Please help me. A gentle woman's voice echoes down a dark hallway. Your heart tightens, and you croak out, I'm here. Instantly, the gentle voice goes dead silent. Instead, a flurry of frantic, scraping noises erupts from all four sides of the corridor, rushing straight toward you. They tricked you. The darkness unleashes cruelty, turning humans back into bloodthirsty reptiles. Death doesn't come with a gleaming blade. It comes with a searing pain and blunt teeth tearing at your muscles while you are still breathing. Among the millions of souls gasping in that invisible incubator, there was a man named Kay. He had survived for 6 months, hiding like a rat in an underground basement. Kay had lost most of his hair. His eyes rolled back and clouded over. The isolation was eating away at his soul. Then one day, Kay heard a rhythmic tapping on the water pipes. North, radio tower. There is light. Just the word light made tears stream from Kay's dry sockets, stinging the scratches on his cheeks. His body craved a single ray of light so intensely, he would have traded every drop of blood in his veins for it. And so, Kay began a blind trek through the ruins of the metropolis. Every inch forward was paid for in blood. He felt his way with an aluminum cane. His hand fumbled and accidentally brushed against a dried corpse draped over a shattered car window. His feet crushed rib cages that snapped like dry twigs. Frost formed on his eyebrows. The cold numbed his sense of touch, making it impossible to know if he was touching a brick wall or the fangs of a mutant beast. Once, Kay was stalked by a clicking sound. In a blind panic, He swung his cane wildly and crushed the skull of his pursuer. It took him hours of feeling the soft, lifeless body to realize it was just a 7-year-old child, trailing him solely out of a desperate craving to hear the sound of another human. In the dark, there is no line between perpetrator and victim. Leaving the corpse behind, Kay dragged himself toward the city center, and then his eyes caught a stimulus, a blurry, murky region of dull gray separating itself from the black void. Light! Kay's entire body convulsed, drool pouring down his chin. He threw his cane away, tripping and falling repeatedly, but reaching his hands out like a moth drawn to a flame. He heard the low, eerie hum of thousands of throats. He reached the base of the tower, pushing through a writhing, naked, foul-smelling mass of human bodies. When Kay broke into the innermost circle, the source of the light finally revealed itself. The euphoria instantly vanished, replaced by a blast of ice-cold dread that froze the blood in his veins. There was no electricity in the center of the circle. There was no fire. It was a massive crater filled with radioactive coolant leaking from a destroyed underground reactor. That faint, murky gray glow was Cherenkov radiation, a deadly, glowing isotope. The people humming around it, aiming their blind eyes at the pit, were literally cooking from the inside out. Their skin was peeling off in large chunks, dropping to the floor without them even noticing because their nervous systems were entirely deadened. They worshipped this light, trading their lives just so their retinas could register one single photon before their optic cells burned to ash. Kay stood there. His skin began to blister and burn. He stared into the murky, radioactive crater. His eyes drank in the toxic glow like a parched desert swallowing a drop of pure acid. A gutted, maniacal laugh tore from his throat. The ultimate fear isn't that you will never see light again. It's the realization that the only light left in the universe is the very thing that will kill you. And worst of all, Kay couldn't turn away. He took a step forward, merging with the rotting crowd, opening his eyes wide to stare into the pit of death. Because seeing what kills you is still better than dying in a bottomless night. Now, open your eyes wide. Look at your screen. Feel the light radiating from the pixels. Turn on the lights in your room and look at the edges of your desk, the shadow you cast on the wall. The existence of sight is a colossal privilege, a massive anchor keeping our minds from plunging into the abyss. Darkness is the eternal void waiting to swallow everything, and light is just a fragile ray of hope we are lucky enough to borrow. The next time you reach out to flip the light switch before bed, pause for a fraction of a second and pray that tomorrow morning the sun will still rise. How long do you think your sanity would last if the lights never came back on? Drop your survival theories in the comments below. And if you dare to explore more of humanity's darkest fears, make sure to follow and subscribe. The nightmare is just beginning.